Darrell Gill is set to have a monster season for Syracuse football.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, it's very simple. The top 10 players on Syracuse football's roster for 2025. That's what we're going to talk about here on today's show. And before we get to the top 10 list, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So yesterday I teased on the show that we were going to do our first Syracuse football position preview, where we pick one random position group on the team and we sort through all the players, project the starters, project the backups, throw over possible breakout candidates, right? But I realized I jumped the gun. We have yet to do a top 10 list of Syracuse football players for next season. Now, the good news is that tomorrow we will do our first Syracuse football position preview. I think it's going to be the secondary. And that's really good news, especially because I was not planning on recording tomorrow. Now I am going to record tomorrow. So you're getting two podcasts. Sound good to everyone? But let's get to this top 10 list right here. And number one, you may have heard at the very top of the podcast, Darrell Gill, 6'3", 175-pound wide receiver, a returning true junior. He is set to have an enormous 2025 college football season. And in this Jeff Nixon offense, if Syracuse football gets really solid quarterback play, I think he could at least make an all ACC team, dare I say first or second team this upcoming season. I think he has a chance to be one of the best wide receivers in the conference next season. And here's why. Last year, Darrell Gill was the fifth option on the team, not the fifth wide receiver, the fifth option. When you look top to bottom, the list of targets, when Kyle McCord was passing the football, there were four guys clearly ahead of him. Oronde Gadsden, Jackson Meeks, LaQuint Allen, Trevor Pena. Well, for better or for worse, all four of those players that I mentioned are gone. In comes Darrell Gill to be the number one option for Syracuse football this upcoming season. And last year, as a fifth option, 31 catches for 570 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he led the ACC with over 18 yards per catch. So he can stretch the field. And we'll talk about another receiver later on here in this top 10 ranking. But you got two guys who can stretch the field at the wide receiver position. And even though those numbers might not jump off the page, I mean, 570 yards, 2 touchdowns, about 30 catches, right? Those aren't like crazy elite numbers. He was the fifth option. And yet he still carved out a role. And by the way, 3 of those 4 players are now in the National Football League, 2 of which were drafted, 1 of which was an undrafted free agent. And Trevor Pena got himself a nice NIL deal over at Penn State. I'm not sure if it was $2 million, but he definitely got himself a nice NIL deal. So those were 4 really good players ahead of him, and yet he still got 570 receiving yards. And those numbers were up from what he did as a true freshman, where he only had 7 catches for 60 yards and 1 touchdown. So what does all this mean? He is, at least for right now, the best player on Syracuse football's roster, and he has a chance to be first team all ACC this upcoming season. And hey, you all agree with me? You all disagree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Do you think that Darrell Gill is the best player currently on Syracuse football's roster? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Next up, you got Steve Angeli. 6'2", 205-pound quarterback from Notre Dame, a redshirt junior. So if all goes well, he could possibly come back to Syracuse in 2026. Unlike Kyle McCord, I mean, we were hoping he would get that fifth-year waiver. We'll never know if he would have gotten it or not. But at this time last year, we kind of knew the deal with McCord. It was going to be one season, and that was it. He was going to run out of eligibility. Well, with Angeli, if all goes according to plan, he could possibly come back to Syracuse in 2026. Now, Angeli isn't a lock to be Syracuse's starting quarterback, and we talked about it on yesterday's podcast. But I also mentioned that as of right now, he seems to be the clear favorite to be Syracuse's starting quarterback in a very limited sample at Notre Dame. And I get it's limited. Just 80 career passing attempts. 72.5% completion percentage. That's really good. 11.6 yards per attempt. That's really good. 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. Elite. So those are really, really impressive numbers. It's just in a small sample. And not to mention, he did have a brief cameo appearance in the college football playoff against Penn State, where he led a end-of-half field goal drive. It was a very big drive for Notre Dame in that game against Penn State. If Angeli can at least be serviceable, so like a decent quarterback, then I think Syracuse is definitely a bowl team. And if he can be more than that, perhaps above average, maybe play his way into that all ACC category, maybe they're even more than just a bowl team. Maybe they can win 8-9 games like they did last season. He's definitely a wild card. Do I think that he's Kyle McCord? No. I mean, that's okay because Kyle McCord literally set records in the ACC a year ago. But do I think he can be above average? Absolutely. And I've made this point before, and I will continue to make this point about Steve Angeli. You don't get to compete for Notre Dame's starting quarterback job by accident. The kid clearly has talent. If he had no chance to be Notre Dame's starting quarterback, he probably leaves in December. But he didn't. He stuck with Notre Dame. He didn't win the job there, but that does not mean that he is some bad quarterback. So overall, as of right now, I get it's kind of a projection here. I'm putting him second on my list of the top 10 players on Syracuse football. What do you think of that? You think Angeli's top 2? You think I'm being aggressive with that ranking? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Number 3, you got Jonte Cook. 6 foot, 185-pound wide receiver from Texas and Washington, a true junior. So kind of like Angeli, this is purely looking at upside. We don't really have much to look back on with Jonte Cook as far as on-field production. But I believe standing through Syracuse's entire roster, which consists of over 100 players, he is one of just 2 that were once a 5-star recruit. The other is Zach Rice, an offensive lineman that Syracuse got this offseason in the portal from North Carolina. But Jonte Cook, he's someone who at the end of the season, he's got potential to be the best player on the team or someone that's not even close to the top 10. It really is boom or bust with a guy like Jonte Cook, but he has an awesome opportunity. He's in Jeff Nixon's offense, a pass-happy system. And he's set to be one of the top wide receivers on the team this upcoming season alongside Darrell Gill. Jonte Cook is an electric talent. He can stretch the field, got massive speed. In fact, here's my prediction here. In 2 seasons so far, Jonte Cook has just 273 total receiving yards. I believe that Jonte Cook in 2025, assuming he can stay healthy and on the field, he might triple that. I'm predicting that he will go for at least 700 yards receiving this upcoming season. Too high, too low? Comment your thoughts in the comments section below. So the top 3 players on my list for the top 10 overall on Syracuse football. Number 1, Darrell Gill. Number 2, Steve Angeli. And number 3, Jonte Cook. I'd love to hear your feedback right now in the comments section below. Your top 3 players on Syracuse football. Now, coming up, we will continue ranking the best players on this team for this upcoming season. So stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. There's nothing like the NBA Finals. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. I mean, the Indiana Pacers have had all sorts of comebacks in this postseason, and they did it in Game 1. The Oklahoma City Thunder responded in Game 2, and it's the kind of atmosphere you're going to want to experience live, and this year's matchup is already delivering, and if you want in, Gametime makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest games, right? Games 3 through 7, those are the biggest ones. Prices on the app actually go down the closer it gets to tip off. And with killer last minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Gametime is a total game changer. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's continue ranking the top 10 players on Syracuse football for the 2025 season. The first 3 players that I mentioned, number 1, Darrell Gill, a returning wide receiver. Number 2, Steve Angeli, a quarterback from Notre Dame. And number 3, Jonte Cook, a wide receiver from Texas and Washington, who projects to be one of Syracuse's 2 starting receivers this upcoming season. Now, with those 3 guys, there's a mix of proven talent, but also looking at their upside. Darrell Gill has the most proven talent out of all 3 of those, but all of them, to a degree, have a lot of upside. These next 2 players that we're going to discuss, they have a body of work. They have proven production. We know what these players are at this point, and they're both pretty good. That's the good news, right? Number 4, Devin Grant. 6'4", 200-pound safety, a returning senior. He's expected to be one of Syracuse's starting safeties this upcoming season. He's also got some versatility to play corner, which is good. In 2023, a first-team All-MAC selection over at Buffalo. And in 2024, his first season with Syracuse football, he was 4th on the team with 56 tackles. He also forced 3 fumbles. We'll get to one of them in a moment. 1 interception and 8 tackles for loss. Speaking of forced fumbles, I said we were going to get to it in a moment. Well, the moment is now here. He did make that incredible play in the final game of the final game of the regular season against Miami. It was in the 3rd quarter. Miami's driving. They're past midfield. It's a 3rd down. Xavier Restrepo has the yardage to pick up the first down, but Devin Grant strips the ball out of Restrepo's hands. He picks up his own forced fumble, and he takes it back to the house. I believe that gave Syracuse its first lead of the game against Miami. And of course, the Orange went on to pull off that upset and complete a 9-3 regular season. They go on, obviously, to win the bowl game for a 10-win season overall, thanks in large part to Devin Grant. I would not be surprised if Devin Grant finished at least as an honorable mention All ACC this upcoming season. He did not make it a year ago, but he's a pretty good player. And so with maybe even more of a role than he had last year, I think he's ready for it, and he can be a very productive player for this team in 2025. Next up is another player who projects to be a starting safety for this team this upcoming season. And of course, I'm talking about Deuce Chestnut, 6 foot, 200-pound safety, a returning redshirt senior. Like Grant, he's also got some positional versatility, the ability to play corner. In fact, he was an all-conference corner for Syracuse in 2021 and 2022. I don't know if Deuce Chestnut will ever be the all-conference player he was earlier in his career. but he is still a solid starting caliber secondary player, whether you want to play him at corner or safety in the ACC. Last year, he had 62 tackles, which was a career high, I believe, and 1 interception. Pro Football Focus gave him a grade of 72 in coverage. That was the 3rd best on Syracuse a season ago, and 70.8 overall, which was 4th best on Syracuse's defense. Now, for those that don't understand Pro Football Focus, it grades players on a scale of 0 to 100. 100 is considered the best. 0 is considered the worst. So a grade of 70 is actually considered to be above average. So Deuce Chestnut overall, a solid returning player for Syracuse this upcoming season. And hey, I just realized that's 5 players. So my top 5 players for Syracuse football this upcoming season: number 1, Darrell Gill; number 2, Steve Angeli; number 3, we got Jonte Cook; number 4, Devin Grant; and number 5, we got Deuce Chestnut. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that top 5 in the comment section below, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, whether you think I'm a genius, or you think I'm just an idiot. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Let's get to number 6 here. This one might be pretty controversial, but I'm fine with it. Demetres Samuel Jr., a 6'1", 190-pound true freshman, a consensus 4-star recruit. I'll admit, this list is a lot more difficult to make than it was a year ago. Because a year ago, we actually did this podcast around this time, and there was a lot of returning experience and production that was there. There weren't a lot of players on that list where we're sitting here saying, I don't know what to expect this upcoming season. You know, you had Oronde Gadsden and Kyle McCord, Fidel Diggs. You had Marlo Wax on that list, and Justin Barron was on the list. And of course, you had your surprises over the course of the season. But in terms of creating a top 10 then, it was a lot easier. This time around, it's a lot more difficult, and that's why a guy like Demetres Samuel Jr. appears at number 6 on this list, because, quite frankly, there's not a lot of returning productive experience here. This is a roster that there's a lot of unproven talent, given that there is some decent talent here, but they're going to have to prove it this upcoming season. And with a guy like Samuel, he's probably going to start right away as a true freshman over at corner. In fact, he might be the team's number 1 corner this upcoming season, and he also can play a little bit of wide receiver, which does factor into this list. Being able to play 2 ways, being considered maybe the next Travis Hunter. I don't know. So here's the thing with this ranking, right? I'm either going to look like a genius or I'm going to look like an idiot. And I'm okay with that. But for right now, I'm putting Demetres Samuel Jr. at number 6. And hopefully he can perform to that level. But he's definitely got talent as a consensus 4-star recruit and one of Syracuse's best recruits overall over the past 20 years. And no, that is not exaggeration. Just saying. So that does it for the top 6. Now coming up, we'll get to players 7 through 10. That's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. We still got 4 more players to talk about here in the top 10 Syracuse football players for the 2025 college football season. But before we get to the remainder of the list, I just want to thank you for getting to this point of the podcast. And since you've made it to this point of the podcast, if you could just do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps the channel grow to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And also, if you can just tell 1 or 2 of your Syracuse friends about the Locked On Syracuse podcast, that would be much appreciated. And of course, thank you to all those who continue to subscribe to Locked On Syracuse each and every day. You all are truly the best. Now let's continue the list. Okay. Top 10 players for Syracuse football this upcoming season. Number 7. And this one was so tricky, I'll admit. I'm putting Rickie Collins here. 6'2", 205-pound quarterback from LSU, a redshirt sophomore. It's very weird to have two quarterbacks on this list. Last year when we did this, Kyle McCord was in the top 3, and there was no other quarterback to be found because we knew that Kyle McCord was going to be the team's starting quarterback. It was a done deal. Now, again, I'm expecting it's going to be Steve Angeli, but we don't know for sure. It could be Rickie Collins. Rickie Collins transferred from LSU back in December. He earned the team's starting quarterback job before they went out and got Steve Angeli. So, he very easily deserves to be on this top 10 list, at least for now. And when I was thinking about it while making the list, my thought was, okay, imagine if Steve Angeli is not with Syracuse football. Where would I rank Rickie Collins as the team's starting quarterback on this list? And this is where I would rank him. This is it. So I guess if Steve Angeli isn't here, I would put him at 6. But because Steve Angeli is here, I put Rickie Collins at 7th. He doesn't have the same body of work as a guy like Steve Angeli, and that's a limited sample, like we mentioned. He's only got, Rickie Collins only has 7 career passing attempts. But who knows? Maybe he can be the team's starting quarterback, right? He's obviously got talent. He's coming from LSU, just like Steve Angeli is coming from Notre Dame. So we'll see. It's the quarterback situation, which, again, is still the number one story of the offseason and is essentially the elephant in the room. But I'm putting Rickie Collins here for now, and we'll see how it pans out. Number 8, another Collins, but not Rickie Collins. Austin Collins, 6'3", 295-pound guard from Louisville, a redshirt senior. He's most likely going to start along Syracuse's offensive line, and it's going to be probably in one of 2 positions. Either a right guard, which is where he played at Louisville, or center. He's definitely got more experience at right guard, but Mark Petrie is going to be out for this upcoming season. He was supposed to be the team's starting center. So because he's out the year, barring Syracuse makes another addition in the portal, I don't know who's going to be the team's starting center. Perhaps they move a guy like Austin Collins to center. But regardless, whether he's playing center, whether he's playing guard, he's going to be along Syracuse's starting offensive line, in my opinion. And last year, he was really good. He played in 12 games. He allowed 0 sacks. Hey, that's nice. No sacks. He had a Pro Football Focus pass blocking grade of 85.1. Listen carefully here, okay? That was ranked 38th in the country among 600 qualified offensive linemen. That's pretty good. Wouldn't you say? Pretty good. That being said, the reason why he's not much higher on this list is because, yeah, he's a great pass blocker, but he's not a good run blocker. At least what Pro Football Focus tells you. I believe his Pro Football Focus grade for run blockings in the 50s, which is below average. So a well above average pass blocker, below average run blocker. Overall, he definitely deserves a top 10 spot. Of course, talking about Austin Collins. At number 9, David Reese, 6'2", 230-pound edge rusher from Cal, a redshirt senior going into his 8th year of college football. Hey, I don't make the rules. He's eligible to play. He can play. Talked about him yesterday, though, as I think he's one of the sleeper additions that Syracuse football made this offseason because he's got 11 sacks over the past 2 years. And both of those 2 years were in a power conference, 2023 in the Pac-12, 2024 in the ACC. Also, over the past 2 years, he's got 5 forced fumbles. That's pretty good. Is he as good as Fidel Diggs? Probably not. Can he at least be decent? Well, he already is decent. So David Reese, as of right now, based on his proven production over the past couple of years, I'm putting him in the top 10 list of Syracuse players for this upcoming season. And then finally, number 10. So many guys you can go with. But it's a top 10 list. and there's only one guy left. And I have to give this player some love. You know why? Because punters are people too. That's right. Jack Stonehouse, the punter, a redshirt senior. Jack Stonehouse deserves some love because he's a really good punter. Now, thankfully, a season ago, we did not see much of Jack Stonehouse. In fact, you ready for this? I looked up the numbers. In 2023, Jack Stonehouse at Syracuse punted 62 times in 13 games. In 2024, he also played in 13 games, but he only punted a grand total of 33 times. Because Syracuse was really good on offense in 2024, less so in 2023. But he's a two-time all-conference punter. That's pretty good. And last year, when he had the opportunity to punt, again, we don't want him to have the opportunity to punt. Sorry, Jack Stonehouse. We really don't want to see you on the field because if you're on the field, that means Syracuse's offense didn't do something right. But he set Syracuse's single-season record for a net punting average of 45.7 yards. Jack Stonehouse, I get, is a punter. He deserves to be on this list of the top 10 Syracuse football players for 2025. So that's the list. And I'll read you the 10 names right now. And I'm sure a lot of you all are going to have thoughts on it. You're going to have agreements. You're going to have disagreements. That's cool. That's what sports talk is all about. And I'm all ears. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But this is my top 10 list. Darrell Gill, Steve Angeli, Jonte Cook, Devin Grant, Deuce Chestnut, Demetres Samuel Jr., Rickie Collins, Austin Collins, David Reese, and then Jack Stonehouse. I'd love to hear your top 10 list in the comment section below right now. Who am I missing? Who am I missing? Who was the one or two obvious flaws from this list? Comment in the comment section below. Now, as far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the future, tomorrow, we will have our, barring any breaking news, just want to put that out there. There could be breaking news. I don't know. But tomorrow, assuming there's no breaking news, Syracuse football position preview. We will discuss the secondary in depth. And on Friday, 4-star wide receiver Messiah Hampton is announcing his decision. Syracuse is among the finalists. He's from Rochester, New York. Hopefully Syracuse lands him. But we will react on this podcast, whether it's good news or bad news. Also on Friday, it's Poll Friday, but I'm probably going to move it to Saturday. So just bear with me on that. We've done Poll Friday on Saturday before. We've done Poll Friday on Thursday before, even though it's in the name. It's usually on Friday. But that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the future. And thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, you can check out the new Locked On Portal show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith, who's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. You can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.